Hello everyone, in today's video I'll show you how to create this fluffy bear shaped bun in Procreate. We'll paint together and I'll guide you by sharing my favorite techniques to bring this bun bear to life. Whether you're just starting out your artistic journey or an advanced skilled artist, these tips will take your work to the next level. Take a moment to cozy up, pour yourself a drink, and let's get started. All the brushes and the canvases I'm using will be found in the description below. You can also download the free sketch and color palettes there as well. For today's demonstration, I'll be using the rough groove texture canvas, but you can use any canvas you like. And as you can see, the color palettes are going to be here in the following orders for you to easily follow along. And I have already imported the sketch here. And we're going to create a new layer and we're going to drag it underneath the sketch, which is going to be underneath the watercolor texture canvas layers. We'll start off using the wet on dry brush with this orange tone color here, keeping the opacity and the size at 100%. If you are enjoying these tutorials, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel so you'll be notified when new videos are released. And we're going to start from the top with darker, medium tone colors and light tone colors at the bottom. This will help us create more depth, warmth, and realism, just like a freshly baked bun. And we'll start from the top and go all the way across, and then fill in the ears with a little bit more detail that's protruding outwards a little bit. And then we can generally fill in the areas in the middle with ease, and then going back to outlining the outside like this. Now we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to use this light brown tone color and fill in the mid-tone colors now, right underneath the orange tones that we made before. The mid-tones don't need to be perfect. As long as the colors are staying inside the lines of the sketch, you'll be fine. And once we're done that, we're going to create a new layer and pick this light tone color. And then we'll add the bottom piece of the light tone colors, working with the outlines first, and then filling in the general middle area. Now we can open the layers tab and we're going to combine all three layers so we can start blending them. So we're going to use your two fingers and pinch them together like this, all the three layers. So choose the moving blender, keeping the size to around 40% and 100% opacity, working with two-tone colors, wiggling around and going across the paper like this. Mixing them together, giving a natural gradual change of colors. And now we're going to create a new layer and pick this lightest tone color. It's almost pure white. And from our line and wash watercolor brush set, we're going to use a smooth brush now. And we're going to focus on creating some of the light tone colors around the ears of the bear. Because of the roundness of the ears, they will have a deeper brown tone color because they're being baked at a higher heat level. So the surrounding ears will be a little bit lighter. And since the light tone is coming from the left, I want it to be a little bit more lighter in that area too. Now we're going to use the fast blender. And just like the name, we're going to blend them quickly by using around the size around 30% and just going around them just like this. Doing the same thing to the right side. Now we're going to create a new layer now and pick this brown tone color and use the fine line brush, keeping the size to around 35%, and we're going to zoom in the face and we're going to paint the chocolate eyes, nose, and the whiskers. Again, I like to fill in the areas of the outline and then fill in the center like this. Same thing with the whiskers. This will give us more control, more accuracy of the paint control, and then fill in the areas without any worry going over the lines. And don't forget the nose like this. And we're going to reduce the opacity to around 55% and make the mouth like this. And now we're going to pick this black tone color and reduce the opacity to around 50%. And we're going to create some shadows in the eyes, making it pop even more. Comment down below what you guys think about this flavor of these eyes, nose, and whiskers. Chocolate, red bean, black sesame. I would think and prefer the red beans for this type of style. For the darker tone, we're going to put it on the right side because the light's coming from the left, making it a bit more three-dimensional and focusing on the depth. Now we're going to create a new layer on top of the bun. We're going to pick that light tone color that we put for the ears, using this smooth brush, keeping the size to around 35%, and we're going to fill in the nose like this. And we're going to add later dimensions and charm by adding more shadows to this. Now we're going to pick this red tone color to add some nice cute rosy cheeks, and then use the fine line brush, keeping the opacity to around 50% and size to around 60%. And we're going to be making some oval shapes underneath the eyes like this. Now we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to create the bottom of the bun, adding a slight golden brown tone, showing a bit of that crusty bottom. Now pick this golden brown tone color, using the hard edge brush now, keeping the size to around 35% and the opacity at 100%. And we're going to paint going left to right. And as you can see, it's going to create a darker on the edges, but it gradually changes in color, which is exactly what we want. Doing the same thing, starting from the left and going upwards like this. And we can put another layer to darken the areas of the corners like this. Do the same thing to the left side. Now we're going to create a new layer on top of the bun that we painted before. And pick this darker brown tone color. We're going to use the wet on dry brush. Now reduce the opacity to around 60%, and we're going to paint the top of the head, around the ears, and on the right side as well. I want to create more deeper browns on the top, creating that classic toasty golden dome, giving it a little bit more richer flavor and texture. And then we're going to use the regular blender, keeping the size to around 30% and dragging the tone colors like this. Now we're going to create some watercolor stain looks. Now we're going to create a new layer. Pick this lighter brown tone color. Use the wet on dry brush, keeping the opacity to around 40%, and then the top of the head. Again, creating that stain look. Don't worry if it looks kind of funky, we'll smooth it out to make it a little more natural looking. Just think of it as giving this little nice bear a nice funky wig. And now create a new layer and pick this lighter golden brown tone color, keeping the opacity to around 40%, and it's going to be a bit more faded now. And paint it underneath the darker tone layers that we created before. And now we're going to create another layer to put a lighter tone, keeping the opacity to around 20%. Then we're going to blend them slightly to give a more natural look of the blended colors. So choose the moving blender, and we'll start with the mid-tone colors that we created. The light tone colors are faded, so we're not going to mix them, but the mid-tone colors, we're going to blend them slightly. While we go along the lines, we're going to skip some of the areas to leave that stain look alone, to preserve some of that stain look we have. Now pick that tone color that we used for the dark tone, do the same thing, skipping some of the areas and mixing them in. Now we're going to create some sesame seeds on the top of the bun. Pick this black tone color, use the fine line brush, and keeping the opacity to around 70% and around 45% size. And we're going to create some sesame seeds on the top. The sesame seeds break up the soft bun texture with tiny dark accents, adding some balance to the composition with some dark sprinkles on the soft palette. Since the light's coming from the left, we're going to cast more of that shadows on the right, and we're going to do this by adding some of the darker tones of the brown first. So we're going to create a new layer and use this dark tone color of the brown that we used before. We're going to use the wet on dry brush, keeping the opacity to around 60%, and like we did before, create some shadows on the right side. But I want to leave that stain look. On a little bit of the inside of the sesame seeds. Again, we're going to create a new layer. Now pick this white tone color, and now we're going to create some light reflections. Use the gouache brush now, and keeping the opacity to around 70% and the size to around 10%. And just like this, we're going to put the light reflections on the left side. The seeds are going to be glossy, so it's going to reflect a lot of light. Now to the eyes, do the same thing. Light reflections are going to be coming from the left, and a slight reflection coming from the right as well. And do the same thing around the whiskers and the nose. Now we're going to cast some shadows, so create a new layer and use the fine line brush and use this dark blue tone color, keeping the opacity to around 25% and size to around 45%, and casting the shadows on the right side, making the eyes, the nose, and the whiskers pop out even more. And don't forget to cast the shadows around the nose too. The mouth itself is going to be protruding outwards towards us, so there's going to be casted shadow on the right side. To focus on creating the light reflections of the bun, so pick a white tone color, use the gouache brush, keeping the opacity to around 30% and size to around 30% as well. And since the light's coming from the left, we're going to focus on the left here, on the ears, and now the left and the top side of the bun. Creating a light reflection like this on the bun is a small touch that makes a huge difference, especially if you want to portray the freshly baked one. Having a slight glossy surface with natural oils, butter, and egg wash. A well-placed highlight can make all the difference to support the artwork. So trust in yourself, believe in yourself, that it will work out all together. Now, since we created some light reflections on the left, we're going to create a bit more shadows on the right side. Now pick this dark blue tone color. We're going to use the wet on dry brush and keeping the opacity to around 30% and starting from the right side, make our way all the way to the bottom, just like this. And now use the moving blender, keeping this size to around 30%, and we're just going to blend them like this, giving it a bit more natural look. Gradual change of colors. Now we're going to finish it off by creating a new layer at the most bottom. And to do this, we're going to click on the layer of the bun and then create a new layer and drag it down to the bottom. We're going to use the wet on dry brush, using the same dark blue tone color that we used before, keeping the opacity to around 30%, casting a bit of a shadow on the right side like this, looping all the way around. So increase the opacity to around 40% and put another layer, just like this, closest to the bun. And now go back to using the moving blender and create more gradual change of colors, just like this. And all we have to do is remove the sketch by clicking on the checkbox of the sketch box of the sketch layer, just like this, and then we're done. Adorable little bear bun. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you want to continue painting with me, I have tons of other videos for you to follow along, so click on the next video and I'll see you there.